The James Show Podcast.
And today we're going to start off with a celebration of life for a real American hero. The great Hulk Hogan has passed away. Now, James Parker, the father of 4 kids, adult, thinks pro wrestling's absolutely ridiculous. James Parker, the 9-year-old little boy growing up in the middle of nowhere, East Texas, thought pro wrestling was absolutely awesome. Now, the fact that I did enjoy it at one time means that for the rest of my life, I can't make fun of other people who do like pro wrestling. I was there. I did it once. Granted, I was much younger, and I felt like I kind of aged out of it. I feel like if you're a middle-aged guy that still likes pro wrestling, that's about like being a middle-aged guy that still likes watching like Paw Patrol or something. It just doesn't make you a bad person. It's just a little suspect there. Younger people, if you're still into it, I get it. It was fun. But since it's Hulk Hogan's, this is his memorial episode, I'm not here to make fun of pro wrestling. I'm here to say nice things about pro wrestling. First off, the brilliance of that original generation that brought pro wrestling, to such great heights was the idea that I couldn't imagine this. You couldn't imagine pro wrestling if it didn't already exist. That's what's so amazing. Can you imagine getting in a boardroom and pitching to some investors the idea of this? We're going to have a wrestling league. Oh, wrestling. You mean like at the Olympics? No. This one, the guys are going to be absurdly huge. They're going to be wearing panties. We're going to oil them up. We're going to tan them. They're going to have themes. They're going to have theme music. And they're going to pretend to wrestle. I think if I was in that board meeting, I'd say, nope, I don't see how anyone else could watch this. I would have been wrong. You would have been wrong. But pro wrestling gets so much credit for if it didn't already exist. Could you imagine the popularity of such an endeavor? Yet here it is. It will fill American Airlines Center whenever it comes in. It was just in a few months ago. They had something pro wrestling thing at the American Airlines Center. So that's the genius of that first generation like Hulk Hogan. You don't get as much credit to the later guys like the John Cena and The Rock because it was already a huge thing by the time they got into it. This original, the original iteration that most of us are familiar with, what a bunch of geniuses they turned out to be. Because I would have never guessed that. Right now, if you did the Men in Black thing, like where you put it in front of my face and it blinked and I forgot all about pro wrestling, if you told me about it now, I wouldn't believe you. But Hulk Hogan and pro wrestling, here's where I'm going to give him even more credit. As far as I can tell, looking around, there is sports and pro wrestling that are the last vestiges of American pop culture that are still masculine, manly. You get what I'm saying about that, right? They've pretty much ruined everything else. Who's the big manly pop star out there? Is there one? Is there a big manly pop star? I mean, even rock stars have been sissified. They started off, kind of rough and tumble. Post Malone doesn't count. You think Post Malone can bench his body weight? You think Post Malone has abs? You think Post Malone looks good with his shirt off? Yeah, bad example, Garrett, but I appreciate you trying. This is why your mic's not allowed to go on here. One day, maybe. But I remember when I was a kid, like one of the things that turned me off about rock music is you would listen to it on the radio and they'd be like, yeah, we're bad. We like chicks. We like motorcycles. We go to strip clubs. And then you look at the album cover, you'd be like, bro, you're wearing eyeshadow and lipstick. So rock got sissified before I showed up. That was one of the things that I found so compelling about rap music when I was a kiddo. Hey, well, at least these guys are men, right? They're masculine. That's a lot cooler than running around in tights with your hair all teased up. I remember when you open like the album cover, the CD cover for Poison, and you look at the band members, you're like, I didn't know they had a female drummer. And you know what? She's not that hot. Yeah. What's her name? Ricky? Oh, God. But when I was a kid, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, younger kid in the 80s and early 90s, there was Hulk Hogan waving the American flag. Not just being proud to be an American, but that was like part of his brand. And it was just kind of assumed like, yeah, we all love America, don't we? Isn't that the normal thing that people do around here is just loving America? In fact, his theme song was Real American. It got a little political.
Real American,
fight for the rights of every man. They're talking about like the constitutional rights. Is that what we're talking about? We're having saying something positive about America. That's amazing. Because I would flip from this, and then I would flip over, and the next cartoon would be G.I. Joe, a real American hero. And they were big bad dudes with muscles that kicked butt. They had guns, and it was awesome. Remember that? Remember when our cartoon characters had guns? Hell, Elmer Fudd had a gun. Winnie the Pooh carried a gun. This used to be a good country. And when we talk about making America great again, this is what some people were thinking about. Who is the childhood icon for this generation that's so pro-American? Who is it? Paw Patrol? Is there anyone that waves a flag and is overtly American? Like we had G.I. Joe, like we had Hulk Hogan? Who's the guy these days? I mean, you can see some of them sort of disappearing over the horizon. Like Kid Rock will fly an American flag. And I mean, I guess Lil Wayne put one in one of his videos like 10 years ago. But I have 4 kids, and I look at the people they watch, and they're all sissies. And none of them are overtly pro-American, talking about fighting for the rights of man or whatever. They're all like, well, let's not hurt anybody's feelings. Who do they have? Am I missing something? 800-288-9227. Other parents out there, can you list anything else that is this overtly pro-American, this overtly masculine? Because here's the big credit that I will give pro wrestling. It is the one avenue that is still overtly masculine. Like, you're celebrated for being masculine, for being a big guy, not being a little sissy guy. Oh, he looks pretty. Because like Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, the last 2 days, American Airlines Center was packed because one of the guys from BTS, a K-pop boy band, was here. And he looked more girly than half the chicks that were lined up to go see him. It was embarrassing. I wouldn't want my kid to be interested in that. So now I'm kind of concerned. It's like, well, if we don't have a masculine pro-American role model for children in this generation, then we need to come up with one. And don't give me Captain America. That's a leftover brand and legacy from comic books that were invented 80 years ago. Superman used to be overtly pro-American. Truth, justice, and the American way. Is that one of his taglines now? Where's the pro-American cultural icons for this generation? I have 4 kids, and I can't tell you. 800-288-9227. This is Chris in Water Lake. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James, it's actually Chris from Wiley, Texas.
Wiley.
But the most masculine influence I could think of these days for the youth is the WNBA.
Man, that's a solid joke. I should have thought of that before. Dang it. That's a really good one, Chris. Yeah, WNBA, ironically, might be one of the more masculine parts of society. But no, sports is still something that is, generally celebrated form of masculinity. That's legit as well. But, I mean, that's not the same as like a pop culture icon. Jokes aside, can you think of one?
Sad thing is it's pretty tough these days to think about it. Everything's been so sissified. I would love to hear from your callers if they can come up with a masculine role model these days.
Well, and this isn't for nothing. I mean, when we talk about the problems we have in society, and I bring it back to the lack of family formation and so many kids being born out of wedlock, and a lot of other people sort of can put a cultural thumbtack in their memories when it comes to these discussions. And I think one of that is, who do guys look up to? Where do they know what a decent father looks like? If they don't have one in their own lives, which they increasingly don't, we used to have them on TV at some point, a positive depiction of masculine adulthood. And a lot of people have noticed that in sitcoms, the father didn't used to be an idiot. No, I mean, he was in some of them. You had an All in the Family out there. You had like the Archie Bunkers or the Married with Children guy. What was his name? Al Bundy out there. But that was the exception. Normally in sitcoms, the father wasn't a buffoon. He was the voice of reason. He was respected by his wife and children. And, that goes all the way back from the Brady Bunch, where their father wasn't an idiot. He was an architect. He was a voice of reason. He was someone who gave good advice at the end of the show. He was usually...
I think that's a great point, and I wonder this. When did the legacy media that was in charge of all of the actual TV programming start going towards the left? I bet you if you could figure out that time frame, that's when most of this started.
Oh, Chris, you know how many times we've had this conversation? Because all the way up through Growing Pains and Alan Thicke in Growing Pains, that was a sitcom in the 90s, and he wasn't a fool, right? But if you're asking where does it start, it's always been there. Hollywood has always been left. Showbiz, before movies existed, was always left. Going back before, the silent movies, Charlie Chaplin left. You can go back before that. The guy that killed Abraham Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth?
Sure.
So he was among the most famous actors in America at the time. In fact, his family was kind of like the Baldwins are now, where him and his three brothers were famous actors. Now, they just traveled the country doing shows on stages because we didn't have movies, much less TV yet, but they've always been lefty. They've always been on the wrong side of history. And it was the same party that was supporting slavery back then, as this does the racial discrimination now. They some of them like to say the party switched at some magical time, but that never happened. They've always been this bad. And that's the other lesson I would like for people to take away too, when they talk about how, I like the news back when it wasn't so biased. No, the news was always biased. We just didn't have any litmus paper to test it with. We only had 3 channels, and if they're all saying the same thing, I guess, who am I to argue with everyone in the world? But no, they've always been this bad.
Yeah, I think all those are great points, and I would also maybe put my thumb on as soon as everything stopped being, or they actually enforced things to be actually PC, politically correct, I think that had a turning effect as well.
Well, the thing that changed is that the few scant references you had to pro-American and pro-masculine characters in pop culture, they sort of went away because, not all of pop culture was pro-American in the 80s, but you at least had the option. You could still go to Sesame Street, or you could still go to these other outlets like a Captain Planet that definitely weren't this type of masculine pro-American characters that are missing now, but it was at least one of the options. Like PBS, it used to be like 90% lefty, but they still had the 10% that did Milton Friedman's Freedom to Choose miniseries. There was still some semblance of balance, like disappearing over the horizon. And maybe it's gotten slightly worse now, but not by much. This is just one of the ones that bothers me. It's so not popular to be pro-American today. I can't think of a pro-American cultural icon for this generation. And that's something that it's either going to fix itself, or I really smell the pendulum swinging the other way, and look for that to come back pretty soon.
Absolutely. Enjoy the conversation. Thanks for having me as a guest today.
Good chat, Chris and Wiley. All right, now coming up next, I'll play you Donald Trump's final minute and 14 seconds from the Republican National Convention. But can you answer our question? Me nor Chris can think of a big, masculine, pro-American cultural icon outside of pro wrestling and sports. And I'm getting some terrible replies here. Not that I don't mind you writing in. I don't even mind you being wrong. But who is this? Yeah, Brian sent me a message on, I guess this is Facebook Messenger. James, Ted Nugent. I love Ted Nugent. That's kind of like a previous generation. Like, he's a little before my time, and I'm 48, okay? I'm talking about this current generation. They're not listening to Wang Dang, Sweet Poontang on their Alexa, although I would recommend that, young kids, if you want to just check out some manly rock like that. No, that does not count. That's not what I'm talking about. On the break there, I also heard from the newsroom. What about Captain America? Well, Captain America is not anything new. Sure, they're making new movies about it, but this is a character that was invented in the 1940s and has the inertia of the last 3 generations of branding already built into it. And what are you going to do? Are you going to make the Marvel franchise and exclude that guy? So sure, his name's Captain America, but he's not overtly pro-American. He just happens to share some iconography with our flag. No, there's not a whole lot. And unless you can help me out with that. I think we got a problem we've identified here in modern pop culture. And I wouldn't despair over this. I think if you just pay attention for the next 5 to 10 years, I expect the pendulum to swing back. I'm pretty positive about this new generation. And partially because I think people my age are doing a lot better job raising kids than whoever raised the damn millennials. What's with those people? Millennials, if you're listening, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the other ones. Of course. Let's listen to Hulk Hogan, the last minute and 14 seconds of his speech at the Republican National Convention almost exactly 1 year ago.
You know, guys, I really, really love this country. And I've lived the American dream. And I want my kids, your kids, and all those little teeny Hulkamaniacs out there to live the American dream too. This November, guys, we can save the American dream for everyone. And Donald Trump is the president who will get the job done. So all you criminals, all you lowlifes, all you scumbags, all you drug dealers, and all you crooked politicians need to answer one question, brother. What you gonna do when Donald Trump and all the Trumpomaniacs run wild on you, brother? God bless you, and thank you.
Now, where is that in the current generation? Where's that been? Has there been a new character that's come up in the last 15, 20 years that can hold a candle to that level of pro-American, that's that level of pro-masculinity? Now masculinity's toxic, and guys get praised the more girly they are. The guy that just filled the American Airlines Center 2 nights in a row probably can't even bench his own body weight. I'm damn sure he can't do it. He looks like a girl himself. He looks so pretty. Hulk Hogan wasn't pretty. Hulk Hogan was ugly, and he loved it, and he was scary, and he was bad. But no, that's a good thing. This is what we need to be teaching our kids, primarily because we live in the real world, and I think I think a lot of kids understand this, but they just haven't had it drilled in or reinforced enough. But when you're faced with a bad guy that's intent on committing violence, the only way to stop him is a good guy that's even better at violence. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Let's go to the phones. Elizabeth and Electra. Hey, Elizabeth and Electra again. Welcome back. What do you think about the Hulk Hogan passing?
Hey, that was awesome. That's always like very pep rally-ish. Very great. As to your answer, first of all, I'm going to make several suggestions, but Trump is like the political Hulk Hogan. I'm going to say that. And then as a blanket thing, before I list all of them, the ones that I know that are big, I'm going to say it's going to be the Save America heroes behind the screen that was online that our youth of this generation watched win this war and get Trump back in office. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's what the case is, especially when you look at the RNC gathering and the youth gathering thereafter with TPUSA and O'Keefe. O'Keefe is a big one. He is a big hero.
Well, no, look, there's no doubt in my mind that there is a market for this that is going completely untapped. And I think we can see that with, to answer my own question, I think the closest thing this generation has to the pro-American, pro-masculine, badass role model would be a Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is sort of the example. With no promotion, with no billboard campaign or TV ads or anything like that, this guy just naturally, through a grassroots, organically, grew to the top of the podcasting world just based almost solely on that because no one else is doing it.
All the Trump memers and this, I guess if you can call them influencers, on Trump's side, I would agree with you, including Cash, Hegseth, Flynn, and anyone in Hollywood who supports Trump. Is there any? not many, but I know there's a few. I think there's Caviezel, and there's I can't remember the guy's name, but you always see him doing a lot of videos online in support. And,
look at who their icons are now, though. Like, do you know who Mr. Beast is? My kids all know who Mr. Beast is. Do you know Mr. Beast?
No.
Seems like a nice guy, but also seems like someone I could whoop left-handed. You know, they're all these little sissy, skinny, girly guys that, you know, have well-kept appearances, and their hair looks great, and their clothes are matching, and they're not dirty. I just remember half of my icons when I was growing up were dirty. 800-288-9227. Got some great calls lined up for you, because we are looking for where have all the pro-masculine, pro-American icons gone? Who is the Hulk Hogan of this generation? The guy with muscles and grit, and he's ugly. And bald helps, too. Looks like he would headbutt you in a bar fight. Hulk Hogan's passed away at age 71. And the question now becomes, that was for my generation when I was a kiddo. I had a big, masculine, manly man, and he wasn't pretty. And he was balding like normal men are. And he wasn't a cute little thin guy who's wearing skinny jeans. He was roided out and strong. And it was kind of weird that they all ran around in their drawers. I thought that was suspect. But he was also flying the American flag, playing the electric guitar. And he was unapologetically pro-American and pro-masculine. And where's that for the current generation? I mean, don't we need some of that? So to answer some of the question, generally speaking, sports are the last refuge of masculinity, where masculinity is not seen as something toxic. That's great. If you're a big, ugly, strong guy, pick up other people and chunk them. That's a net positive if you're a middle linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. So sports are our last haven. You've seen some fly under the radar and become big on their own. Not that they were pushed by Hollywood, not that they're the stars of big movies on Netflix or anything, but like a Joe Rogan. That's a good example. And here's something that might make some people uncomfortable. I think we have to give quite a bit of credit to rap and country music for still being more masculine than feminine. You know, there's strong feminine streaks in both of those, whether it's a Nicki Minaj and a Cardi B and a Meg Thee Stallion and all those fine ladies over there in the rap world. And then there's, you know, you got Lainey Wilson and Miranda Lambert and whatever throughout the country music. But for the most part, those are seen as more masculine than feminine. The rest of the genres we've all lost. Pop stars are just silly little, I don't know. I don't want to get too rude here, because I don't dislike pop stars, and I don't dislike you if you're a beta male or you're effeminate. There's a place in the world for you too. But where have all the pro-masculine, pro-American icons gone? They're not in pop music. They're not even really much in rock music either. It's just down to rap and country. Where do you find? Does anyone because the phones are full, Garrett, does anyone have a good example of the generation currently, their iteration of a Hulk Hogan, a pro-American, pro-masculine guy? Well, that's Jessica. Jessica, what does this even say, dude? What town is this, Garrett? Lone Oak?
Lone Oak. Lone Star, like the state.
Good Lord. He's just typing random keyboard punches in here. Lowan Oak. Lone Oak. Garrett?
No, just Lone, like Lone Star, but Lone Oak.
Yeah, but why doesn't Garrett get that? Anyway, go ahead, Jessica. I'm sorry.
Most people think I say Roanoke, but hey, I got one for you. But you did say rap, but I might catch a little flack for it. But Tom McDonald.
Do my kids know who Tom McDonald is?
I hope not, because he's a little aggressive.
They don't.
Young,
and he's one that's just kind of been shoehorned in there. He's not like an organic from the grassroots up. He teamed up with Ben Shapiro and is making specifically politically oriented rap music. And so, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but he's not big enough. He's not being pushed by the industry, any industry. It's not like he got a show on Netflix or he's in the top 40 or he has a record contract with Columbia or Sony or whoever's doing that these days. He's not filling up the American Airlines Center. But, I mean, that's close.
Well, he
Yeah, he's just, I wish he was bigger. But that's someone else actually said that on one of these social media comments earlier. So, that's not a bad guess, but that's disappointing if that's the best we can come up with, Jessica.
All right. Have a good one, James.
Thank you very much. Dennis Granberry, you're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. I watch Tyrus most nights on Gutfeld. Boy, would he make a good one. He doesn't need much promotion either.
Okay, but he's
got the ugly.
He's got the ugly. He's definitely strong and muscled out, and he's definitely more masculine than feminine. He also comes from the pro wrestling world, so kudos to pro wrestling and sports, rap, and country for being the last vestiges of people who don't act like masculinity is all toxic. But Tyrus, do my kids know who Tyrus is? None of them.
Well, his kids know who he is, but it's,
That's a terrible metric, but I get what you're saying. Look, my kids are 9, 11, 13, and 14, and I don't think they could pick Tyrus out of a lineup.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's
to go with it. Yeah.
That you're not wrong. It's just, again, same with the Tom McDonald. If we can't come up with something bigger than that, that's sad. Oh, you got one? This is Dylan in Grand Prairie. Hit me, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. A lot of kids nowadays watch anime, and All Might from My Hero Academia. I mean, all of his finishing moves are literally locations in America. He has one that's called Texas Smash, and this dude is jacked out of his mind. He's got the blonde hair. He looks similar to Hulk Hogan. He literally has a finishing move called United States of Smash. So,
well, that's cool, but also kind of ironic that is this from Japan? Is this a Japan of Japanese origin?
Yeah.
Well, then that's like his bit. He's a pro-American anime character. All right. Well, I don't think my kids know who he is. How big is he? Do most kids know who he is, and I'm just out of the loop?
Yeah. That show is one of the more mainstream animes.
Which one is he in?
It's called My Hero Academia.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Garrett, do you know My Hero Academia? He's only 28. All right. Well, Garrett's heard of it, so you get partial credit there, Dylan. That helps.
Okay.
But, could he be an icon? If I haven't heard of him, I'm a talk radio host who has to talk about, goofy things like this.
I promise you, if you watch the clips of the show, you would love it.
Okay.
I mean, it's awesome. It's the story revolves around a kid who is inspired by this guy, and just him being so strong and so courageous and killing off all the bad guys and being the hero. So it's very inspiring, and I think youth that watched it would also be inspired.
Man, you sound like you're a big fan. And Dylan, this looks pretty popular. I'm just doing some quick Google searches over here. Yeah, it's a big name. Maybe I'll check it out. Thank you very much, Dylan. I appreciate that. Do you have any examples of big, strong, pro-masculine, pro-American cultural icons for the current generation? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm going to share a couple I've gotten from email, Facebook, and callers next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.